Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts is dedicated to preparing aspiring professionals in the areas of culinary arts, patisserie and baking, and hospitality and restaurant management.
Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions. Paperweights are the crown jewels of glass artistry. You can discover both antique and modern paperweights at the L.H. Selman Gallery in Chicago's Fine Arts Building.
Hi, it's great to have you here. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to Fear No Art Presents the Dinner Party here at wonderful Expo Chicago. Just as Joseph was telling you, so usually our home is at the main stage, this beautiful, lovely, gorgeous theater on the north side of Chicago. But today we're taking our show on the road. So we're at Expo Chicago and this has been really fun and exciting for us. I'm gonna guess that everybody is new here and that you haven't been before. So let me just tell you, in case you don't know, my name is Elizabeth Alfano and I am your host of Fear No Art Presents the Dinner Party, which means every month, the last Monday of every month, I invite a celebrity chef. Tonight you have Michael Cornick, which is really a treat. I invite a celebrity chef and he or she cooks for three cultural luminaries. So usually artists, but sometimes, you know, next month we have the Commissioner of Cultural Affairs, Michelle Boone. So you never really know who's gonna show up. And over food and wine and chocolate and artist performances and Twitter, the conversations flow. So this is really an interactive dinner party. You all know you're getting served food right now, so everybody gets to eat along with us, but also you should be part of the dialogue. So I want you to pull out your cell phones, put them on mute, and Twitter, any comments that you have about the show, any questions you have for our wonderful artists, we have, yes, you can tweet to us at Fear No Art CHGO. Fear No Art CHGO, and be a part of the dialogue. If that's not enticing enough for you, I should tell you, I have gift certificates to the Act One Pub at the main stage. I have a $100 gift certificate to MK. You should be pulling out your phones now because that's very enticing. I also have tickets to a Chicago Sinfonietta, upcoming performance, CDs from Chicago Children's Choir, and a book catalog from Tony Tassett. So lots of good things. So please be sure to Twitter and be a part of this show. You are not alone at this dinner party. I will just tell you that our wonderful partner in crime is Time Out Chicago Magazine. We love them. They put out an e-blast newsletter called Consume, and when I saw that, I said, oh, hey, that's my partner, because that is a great newsletter, and I check it all the time for food. So we are also being filmed live and streaming on Time Out Chicago, so all of our guests at timeoutchicago.com, welcome. You should also be tweeting to us, and next time you have to buy tickets so that you can also get the food, because we've got some good food, and not just from Michael Cornick, but also chocolate from Vosges. So there's lots to look forward to tonight, but most of all, what we have is three wonderful artists, and I want to go ahead and introduce them now. So they should be in the room. I will call them up. Our first wonderful artist that we have is the education director and the principal percussionist at Chicago Sinfonietta, Jeff Handley. Come this way. Come this way, fine sir. Take your seat right over there. So it's a musical evening today at Expo Chicago and on the dinner party. Our next artist is the president and artistic director of a true Chicago gem, the Chicago Children's Choir. Please welcome Josephine Lee. Come on up. The gorgeous and elegant Josephine Lee. Have your seat. Oh God, our food has already arrived. This is great. And our third artist, which is very exciting, it wouldn't be a proper dinner party at Expo Chicago if we didn't have this international sculptor of important repute, Tony Tassett. Come on up. So Tony's going to sit right here. So as much as I want to chat with my artist friends, it's very hard to focus on them when I know that Michael Cornick is slaving away in the kitchen for us. So let's take a little breather and see what Michael Cornick is making in the kitchen.
Good evening. Welcome to the dinner party in MK Restaurant. I'm Michael Cornick, the chef owner, and tonight we're going to make two dishes for the dinner party. The first is a Thai-inspired gazpacho with little neck clams and a salad of little neck clams with mango, green papaya, and a little bit of Thai chilies. We're going to start with a few vegetables that we've already cut up. These are some heirloom tomatoes and cucumbers. We also have some diced green bell pepper, red bell pepper, and a mixture of Fresno chilies, some green jalapenos, and some green Thai chilies. First thing we're going to do is steam open some clams. We're going to do those in just a little bit of white wine. I'm going to put those on high heat and cover them and just let those steam open. The next step, in a high-speed blender, we're going to blend all of our other ingredients. I'm going to start with a cup of clam juice from some clams I steamed open a little bit earlier, and 1 cup of tomato juice. And to that, we're going to add about 4 cups of heirloom tomatoes, so we don't overfill the blender, and the cucumber, hot peppers, green peppers, and red peppers. If you don't have a high-speed blender, you can use a food processor as well, although you might need to strain it afterwards. After it's nice and smooth, we're going to add a little bit of lemon juice and lime juice. That was approximately 1 of each, and a little bit of Thai fish sauce. And this is a little bit of minced garlic as well. It's just about right. We'll check on our clams, take out the ones that are done. Take them out as soon as they're open. They'll be nice and tender. If they sit in there any longer, they tend to get overcooked and tough and rubbery. As soon as they're cool, we would just gently take the clam out and reserve it with the other clams that we previously steamed. For the salad, we're going to take the little neck clams we've taken out of the shell, and a little bit of diced onion, some diced mango, some jicama, a little bit of heirloom tomato that was diced fine. There's some yellow sunburst here, and we had some brandy wines, and a little bit of cucumber. To that, we're going to add a little bit of Thai basil and a little bit of Thai mint. Both of these I'm just going to kind of roll up and very gently give it a fine julienne, which is called chiffonade when we do it with leafy greens. And I'm going to cut it across too so there's no long pieces that get caught in your teeth. And we're going to mix that with a little bit of fish sauce. Now with our fish sauce in here, we're going to mix everything together, and it's going to take a little bit of cracked black pepper, and again this non-prig, which is a very spicy chili, and we're going to use the seeds as well, which are very hot. So we're going to cut that very, very fine. And that'll be plenty of heat for a salad for this size. To serve this dish, we have a large enough plate that's going to be able to incorporate the salad. As well as a taste of the gazpacho. I'm going to top this with a Thai green called, which is got a Thai name I can't pronounce, but it's called bitter lettuce in most of the Thai markets in Chicago. And it's quite bitter, so on top of those lettuces, I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of lemon juice. But it gives a nice contrast to the heat and the sweetness of the tomatoes. This needs to be stirred before it gets poured because it tends to separate. We're going to garnish the entire plate with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. And that's Thai-inspired gazpacho with heirloom tomatoes and little neck clams and a little neck clam salad.
Yum, 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 yum. So hopefully you've all been eating and liking that. I'm going to call Michael Cornick up to the stage to tell us a little bit about what he has made. One thing I love, and I'm going to give him my wireless mic. And I'm also going to thank everyone in the audience. You know, when you take your show on the road, things are a little bit dicey. So we've been rolling with it. Here, this is for you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. What a nice place to have a dinner, right?
It is actually a nice
Small, intimate, but anyway, welcome. I guess, you know, I have a strong love for Thai cooking. I spent 3 months in Thailand in 1987, going to cooking school and working there, and then went back in 1993 for a month. I have always had Thai influences in my cooking, and we do, I think this summer we did a dozen different gazpachos once tomatoes came into season. And right now we're doing just a pure cucumber gazpacho because we're doing some other tomato things. But tomatoes are always part of cold salads in Thai cooking. So if you've had Thai green papaya salad and Thai cabbage salads and Thai cold beef salads and squid salads, you'll always see diced tomatoes. They're very plentiful, especially in northern Thailand. And they always work really well with fish sauce. And so that's the inspiration for taking a traditional Spanish soup like gazpacho and bringing it into Asian flavors for me. I love clams and tomatoes together, yes.
Well, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You know, so much of what you do is to let the natural flavors come through, but you're layering. It's almost like painting. That's what it reminds me of. You layer so
Now
many
you
things.
flatter me.
It's
like painting.
And I'll say that, but I'll also say such an understated, fabulous force in Chicago. I mean, I can't tell you how many people said, like, oh, Michael Cornick's going to be here. Michael Cornick's going to be here. He's such an understated force. So,
Well, look, I'm hoping, first of all, I've been here since Wednesday. Or Tuesday. I'm sorry, Tuesday when we were setting up here, and I hope all of you didn't come just for gazpacho, but you came to see, and more importantly, to buy a couple of pieces while you're here, because this is such a great thing for Chicago, and we can't. I can't even imagine what my thoughts were on Tuesday, before, and then what my thoughts were yesterday when I saw how many great gallerists put up so many great works of art for us to visit and hopefully purchase. But there are a lot of layers in this cooking, but I would also say that part of what I like about the way that raw food tastes is it tastes very close to the way it left the garden. And I'm also trying to convey that. If you saw mangoes by all practical purposes should be available through September in this town as well from everywhere. South Florida and Haiti produce mangoes into the first week of October or so, but that wasn't so true this week. And the woman I get produce from at the Thai grocery store just south of Argyle told me that it's too hot. It's too hot for mangoes to make it to the end of September anymore. So we used some seedling ranch melon was in the salad instead of mango, but I like the idea of fruit and tomatoes together too, and I think there's a really subtle elegance to that. If you get a chance to eat at Lula Cafe before the melons go out of season, he's doing tomatoes with pickled peaches and melon. It's like it is one of the most beautiful dishes in Chicago this season for sure.
And I think only in Chicago would a restaurateur recommend another restaurant when he has the chance to promote himself. So it's such a close-knit.
It's my other favorite restaurant. So that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to have the flavors that are in the soup be complemented by the flavors that are in the salad. So the soup's totally smooth the way a lot of gazpacho is served in tapas bars in Spain, where here and even at the restaurant, we pour that smooth soup over a garnish that we feel in a restaurant like MK enhances your ability to want to pay for it, right? You know, if we put shrimp and crab and other beautifully cut vegetables and things in the soup, it's not just a bowl of tomato puree, and that will elevate your senses and elevate our ability to charge for it. But if you go to a tapas bar, you have the most beautiful just tomatoes blended with white bread and olive oil and garlic and salt and pepper, and that is the essence of gazpacho to me. Great tomatoes pureed. And so this soup, although it has several other ingredients, my hope is that you're tasting beautiful tomatoes, lightly seasoned with the chili peppers and salt and fish sauce. And then you're getting the freshness of the salad that you kind of lose if it's in the soup for my tastes. We're out of time? Good.
Well, thank you.
I was waiting for the flashing light.
Thank you so much. So I know that he's making us lobster and whitefish, so you will be back.
And I'm not really working
well, I don't know how you described it, but I'm just Steve.
So he'll be back. He's coming back. And I'm going to drop this thing, and I think my table mic is working. So he's coming back. But everyone in the audience should have menus. So we've printed out menus for you. So if you want to try to make these things at home, of course you can. But I think that he touched on some really good points that I'd like to open up to my artists. I think Chicago is a very particular art city, and right now we're at the cusp of something really great, I think, happening with the Chicago Cultural Plan that's going to be confirmed in October. It's just a really nice time for the city. And so I wanted to bring you three together. I guess at the onset it might seem that you don't have much in common, but actually you do. So I don't know how many people know this, but Tony teaches at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And of course, Josephine goes into, I think it's 51 Chicago public schools, reaching 3,000 children.
Yeah, we're in 60 this year.
60 this year. So a different sort of teaching altogether. And then Jeff has programs called Audience Matters and Seeds, where you go to 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and then you also go into high schools. So they're bringing music into the schools, and then you're, of course, teaching at the college level. And over the years, we know that we've seen art really disappear practically in the schools. And so I want to open up the question to you, since you're all in arts education. You know, we only do what we know. So if you're not exposed, you don't naturally wake up one day and say, I'll go to Expo Chicago and look at art. It has to be something that you get throughout your life. And so since art education has been dwindling, do you find that kids aren't interested in what you're bringing to them, or do you find that they grab it because it's all they've got? Anyone and all of you.
I think they're very excited about it. Yeah, they definitely want as much as they can get, and they're sponges.
Yes.
Yeah, so whatever we can give them, they're just excited to be a part of it. Definitely.
I agree. I think children are hungry for great art.
Yeah.
And when you present it to them at an excellent level, they're like sponges as well. We actually have 33 singers going to Carnegie Hall with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra next
excited.
week, and tomorrow evening we're performing at Millennium Park, so hopefully you all will be there with some warm jackets on. But it's extraordinary to see. What brought me to the Chicago Children's Choir, I was a classically trained musician, violin, piano, singing, conducting at a very young age, Chicago native, but it was going into the South Side schools when I started Chicago Children's Choir, age 22. And went in, and it was the Academy of St. Benedict, and I sang this gospel piece to them, a traditional piece, Hallelujah, and they repeated, Hallelujah, and I said, oh my goodness, how is it possible that you've never been given any arts education? And let me tell you, I've seen all of those children graduate high school, and they're in college, and I'm very proud to say that some of them are here.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know that we're going to have a performance in just a little bit, but I'm curious if you think music helped them get to college.
I think so. I mean, I don't know when art and science, became separate. Look at Michelangelo and his obsession, with art and science. Look at Leonardo da Vinci. We were just in Italy, and what he was seeking, where the spirit left after the body. I'm sure you could speak more eloquently about this, which orifice it came out of, and somehow we've disconnected the two. And with young people, art is an outlet for them to create. Right. It's an outlet for them to express who they are.
And it's a viable option rather than violence, boredom, all these things that just fester other entities.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, we have a philosophy at the CCC that we take them from the known to the unknown. I mean, you can't just walk into a school with children who haven't had art for 30 plus years and say, hey, listen, you should be listening to this Beethoven piece. You engage them with, let's say, a Michael Jackson tune or something that they, and take them from the known to the unknown, and they are engaged forever.
So I have a tweet for you that has come through, and I want to thank Angela Sandal, because she has just won 2 CDs from Chicago Children's Choir.
All right.
Yes, so I've got those, and Angela Sandal can come to me for them. She says music is such an important part because it helps bring cultures together.
That's right.
And how has that influenced you, seeing races, cultures? Because I should say the Chicago Children's Choir, again, I don't even know if everyone knows what a Chicago gem this is. You travel nationally and internationally.
Nationally, internationally. And it was founded in 1956 during the height of the civil rights movement by a gentleman named Christopher Moore, who lived in Hyde Park, as a response to the race riots that were going on. He said, if children of diverse backgrounds everyone's could come together and sing together, they would create a better world and make a difference. So we have a very strong cultural diversity aspect, as well as a ambassadorship that we're teaching them the world through music, that they're learning how to become world citizens. So we have we travel internationally. We've been traveling since 1964, I believe, and this year we're going to India. So the WBC will be sending a delegation with us, and we hope that Mayor Emanuel will travel with us.
To India?
Hopefully. I just sent him a letter, so Mr. Emanuel.
So everyone let him know you want him to go to India with the Chicago Children's Choir. This leads me to my next question for all of you. Again, we are on, I think, just shout out from the audience if you feel this way as well. We are at a very important crossroads for the city of Chicago. There's been this push from the mayor to really get behind the arts. We have that Chicago Cultural Plan, which in theory, we'll see what happens, but it's meant to put more arts education back in the schools, as well as put Chicago on sort of an international playing field. And Expo Chicago helps to do that, put Chicago on an international playing field for the arts. I mean, so Josephine, of course, takes the choir internationally. Chicago Sinfonietta as well has really their mission is to be an international model, at least a national model for bringing people to music and making that a very interactive experience. And you can talk to me a little bit more about the mission of Chicago Sinfonietta. And you travel all over the world with your art. So my question to all of you is, why, I have my own ideas, but I'm curious, why do you think Chicago puts out so much great art? Was it a stumper?
Because we're the best city.
We are, okay, so we all feel this way. We are the best city.
No, we're an incubator for great talent. I really think we foster that creativity here.
Yes, I completely agree. And I'm wondering if you guys, I have my own thought, but I'm curious if you guys, like, why do you want to be, why is this the city for you? Because you could work anywhere, Tony.
I'm a Midwestern boy, and I mean, the Midwest is, you know, it's one of the three big areas of the United States. Everybody thinks it's LA and New York, and LA and New York is fantastic, but then there's the rest of America, and I don't know, I think Chicago has an interesting, you know, it's in the middle, and it has, and I think it's the best architecture out of those three cities.
Yes.
I mean, that alone, sort of the best, you know, it has this deep, rich history. I think, you know, it's just different. It has its own thing. It's not, I don't think it quite follows fashion in the same way. There are things about Chicago. I mean, the food here is fantastic, but it's grounded in a certain way that's particular. I mean, I don't know if it's better than LA, but it is its own thing.
Yes.
And it's fun to watch it bubble up in music and in food and in art and all these things, and you're never quite sure what's going to bubble up. But I've lived here a while, and there's great, you know, continues to be great things. Theaster Gates is an artist from Chicago, and he's, you know, all over the world, and his work is, I think it's very, very Chicago. So I don't know. There's something grounded here in a way that's unique and Midwestern.
Well, so I interview a lot of artists, and I just interviewed Nick Bowling, who's the artistic director of the Timeline Theater, and he said something that I think is very true. When he goes to, you know, New York or LA, they're focused on having a hit. And that focus on having a hit takes them away from the act of actually creating. And because we always fly slightly under the radar, although hopefully that's changing, Chicago is the city that works. And so if you go back to sort of the first Mayor Daley and had this slogan of Chicago is the city that works, Chicago is the city that creates because we focus on the work, not the hit. And so I think it's going back to some Midwestern values of just focusing on the work. But
we have a great balance, I think, of the big city, but a small town.
Yes, right.
And I'm a Midwestern guy, too. There's no other options for me. But I think that's one of the keys, too. We all know each other. It can be a very small town atmosphere.
Right.
But we're big and hip enough to offer everything.
Yes. Well, talk to me a little bit about the Chicago Sinfonietta, because you, I sort of think, are the smaller organization, you know, comparing to, you know, Chicago Symphony, they're already sorry.
Right.
Or, so, you know, so you would be the smaller sort of little engine that could. I mean, you have an enormous mission.
Exactly. And our mission is diversity. We're the most diverse orchestra in the country.
Absolutely.
And Maestro Paul Freeman started us 25 years ago, and this was his vision. It wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Yes.
And he's retired in the last couple of years, and we have Man Chen, one of the most exciting young conductors in the country right now. So that's been a beautiful thing for us. And being smaller, we do have to have an identity. So I think our programming is very interesting. We're not afraid to play a concerto with a blues guitarist like we did a couple years ago, or a cell phone concerto which we premiered, which got us international news because we involved the audience. You know, their cell phones go off and ruin all our performances. So we said, let's embrace this. And,
yes, that's great.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I've seen some wonderful things. You're very collaborative with artists. So you're doing something with Juby, I think.
Yes, our opening event.
September 28th, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yep.
And you've done things with Poi Dog Pondering, and so really this bringing classical music out so that people can reach it and it's accessible, and and bridging that gap for people and bringing the music to them, which I think is really very exciting. And you know, I'm not sure if that sort of accessibility is available in other cities. You know, I think that's, you know, a friendliness that, I guess it's cliche, but it extends way into the arts, and it's, you know.
Definitely. And you mentioned architecture, and what a great city for that. And our last concert this year is about architecture. We've commissioned 5 composers to pick an iconic building in Chicago and write a brand new piece about that. And so that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating way to sort of cross-pollinate among the arts, and that's sort of a big influencer too. I have a tweet for you, and this person at Dick_celebrity, good for you, because you are getting a gift certificate to an upcoming Chicago Sinfonietta performance. His tweet for you is, how does the satisfaction you get from teaching compare to the satisfaction you get from performing? Nice question.
It is a great question. I don't think I could live without the combination of the two. And it's you know, one is more personal. The teaching is just, I don't know. It's another complete incredible feeling, you know, when you see the students and what they can achieve.
Yes.
I don't know. I need both, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you balance it then. You sort of.
And the piece we'll do tonight will balance that a little bit. I'll talk about that. But it's
doing a piece
little
tonight.
Balance. We might. Yeah, do
well,
something.
Wait a minute. Let's see what you're going to do. I think this is an original piece, is it not?
It is, actually, yeah.
Wow, okay, well, good, because after we hear this original piece, I want to talk to you about the creative process and how original pieces come to be, but I think we're going to make some noise, people. Let's bring
I almost had to have original. We're featuring, I'll mention my guys. So we got,
please.
Yeah, this is the Chicago Sinfonietta Percussion Trio. This is Tina Laughlin, and our special guest, Gil Alexander, who's a West African specialist.
Gosh.
And he's going to have a djembe. She's going to play 2 doon-doons. That's a West African bass drum. And I'm going to play this grandfather of the xylophone, which we play in our orchestra, called a balafone from West Africa. And we're doing this, you know, we could play strictly classical music for you, but when we're in the schools, one thing we do is if we want to teach beginners, drumming is extremely accessible. West African music is extremely accessible. So we do a program working with kids with drumming and the balafons and mallet instruments, and it's a great way to get them started. We can't pass out trumpets. There's no way to start, but this we can do. So we had a King College Prep played this version of this piece at our Seed concert last year, and so we're going to do our version of this for you.
That's wonderful. Let me, just before you get up and go play as well, remind me, you go into the schools for the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and then also for high school students.
Yeah, we started with Audience Matters, and that's where we're just giving an overview of what classical music's all about. We put in architecture and art and science and creative writing. It's all part of it too. Like we said, we have to; those all have to be combined. They all fit perfectly together.
Yes.
And then some of these kids now we've seen have gone to high school now, and now they're musicians. And so Seed is student ensembles with excellence and diversity, and we're coaching 10 different chamber groups. And these are schools that wouldn't have a string quartet, so we've formed these chamber groups.
So Chicago Sinfonietta brings that to them.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's all student musicians, but we coach them and start these programs. Because chamber music is so important, as you'll see with only 3 people or that small chamber group of singers, there's a communication. There's no conductor there, so there's a different kind of communication level with chamber music.
Okay.
So we find it very important.
Well, so I've known all about Jeff, but I met him for the first time today, and I said, I think if I saw you on the street, I would not say that man's a drummer. But he assures me that he is. So let's see it, mister.
Does Gil look more like a drummer? He looks more like a drummer.
Yes, he does. I don't know. So do you guys need mics? Should we run up and set mics, or are you going to blow us away on your own?
These guys, but I don't know about for the...
I think
I can jump in earlier, I said something
Yes.
about Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Actually, we collaborated with Chicago Sinfonietta. So I want, yes, and it was Dr. Paul Freeman who called us, and we actually
Yes.
traveled internationally with
Together.
them. Yes, to the Czech Republic to perform with the symphony. So I wanted to mention that several times, actually. So this is a very collaborative city. So.
It is a very collaborative city. It absolutely is. And
Maybe Tony and I should collaborate. You know, you should draw something while we're performing and singing together. You know, just.
Can I use the table?
you can. You can.
Right on your book there, too. Is that right?
That's perfect.
This is the balafon from West Africa. But instead of resonators, actually have gourds underneath to get some of the resonance.
And so for those of us who are slow, thank you, sir. These are all West African instruments.
Traditional West African.
Great.
Yeah. And although I wrote the little tune, the rhythms that they are playing are traditional, been around forever. Great.
And you wrote this?
Yeah, a
Okay.
little tune, yeah.
Okay, just a little tune.
Like that, if you can. We all set? You guys ready?
So I have to get that on my iPhone because I don't like to clean my house, and I know that I could clean my house to that. I could. I absolutely could. That was wonderful. Thank you. So Chicago Sinfonietta, percussion trio. Percussion trio. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have an interesting thought for you. I'd be curious from the two of you as well. Have you ever, anyone in the audience, are you familiar with the physicist David Eagleman? He did a test and he hooked up electronically to drummers around the world, and he found that they all have the best sense of timing. So all of us are slightly off our internal clocks except drummers. Drummers keep the best time, which I mean, I guess you would know that, but when you think of your internal body clock, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. Well, okay.
There's the other part of timing, too. There's so many, Dave Letterman, Johnny Carson, these are all drummers.
Yes, right,
Oh,
yes.
there's so many, George Callis, all these comedians were drummers. So maybe there's that other sense of
He
timing.
was saying that.
I don't have it, but there are people out there.
He was saying that as well, that comedians have that sense of timing and that usually they were drummers and that David Letterman was a drummer.
There's something to that.
Isn't that so funny? Well, I want to ask you about the creative process, but I'm going to wait and hold that question because I want Michael to be a part of that conversation because he has a lot to add to that as well. So I'll kind of shift the next question to Tony.
I got nothing to perform, or
It's not true. I've got something.
We
You
could
don't-
play Pictionary or something. I'm good at that, but
I've got something for you, actually.
I could sing a little Neil Young, but I'm not going to go on after that. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, you know, what you do has such a social component. And I'll say that for Tony as well, how many of you saw Tony's big eye sculpture when it was on the corner of Jackson and State? Jackson and State.
There it is.
Yeah, so there it is. It was so fun. And it was up for 4 months, right?
Yes.
But you do a lot of public art.
I do.
Not just that one particular sculpture, which we all know. But and by the way, Tony's work is here at Expo Chicago in booth 205.
Kavi Gupta Gallery.
Kavi Gupta Gallery, great gallery here, and he has a big bear sculpture, which I like, and I want you to tell me about. But you do a lot of public sculpture.
I do.
And so my question, you know, we've talked about you going into the schools so much and what that gives to the students, and I would say that public art does the same, that it's trying to bridge the gap to the regular passerby who might not ever think of going to Expo Chicago, but does ride the L at Jackson and State. And so I wonder for all of you, does art have to have a social mission? Or can it just be because you three like it, so you three do it? Or does it have to be larger than that?
I mean, you know, it depends on the venue. There's, you know, if you make something for a gallery or even a museum, there's different levels of the public. But I don't know, when I was younger, I liked the exclusivity of art. You know, it's kind of like when you're younger and you listen to very difficult music that your parents hate, right? I mean, you do that to isolate yourself. And that can be, you know, there's very esoteric kinds of art out there. But when I make public work, I'm really trying to talk to everybody. I mean, I'm trying to, you know, the eyeball, I wanted to make something that everybody understood on a certain level. So it's just such a simple idea to try to make art that, you know, people either love or hate, but it's not a mystery to them. I'm not trying to fool them. You know, it's a big eyeball. That's what it is. So, you know, there's no hidden agenda behind it. So, yeah, I mean, I love the, getting back to Chicago, I don't know, there's something about the public forum that the egalitarian aspect of it is really challenging. And not everybody, you know, some people hate it, and but they tell you about it. And there's something kind of pure about that I like. I mean, I definitely feel that I'm making social, I'm trying to, this is not just decoration, I'm trying to, you know, change that corner, change people's, is it too pretentious to sort of say change your life for just a moment as you pass through this insane, you know, thing on the corner that wasn't there before. So I'm very, very interested in audience, but that's just me. I mean, you know, other artists may make things just for themselves, but not me. I'm a people person.
So we have Hot Dog Man. I don't know if we can find it. There's another
really
slide. We've got a couple. We've also. Okay, so it took me a while. So
this is my blue period. This is for the adults only audience, but.
So this man has become a hot dog. The hot dog has become a man.
Well, it's just, I mean, like the bear, if anybody has seen that, I think I'm just kind of riffing on vernacular sculpture. So this was really my love letter to Chicago's history. I mean, you've all seen those, you know, hot dog figures, or if you're in Europe, you'll see Belgian French fry man. But, you know, this is my Chicago version, but I just took him through the surrealist, psychedelic, Freudian kind of nightmare, and that's what came out.
So I have a tweet from Lucky Nikolev, I think, Netlev, and she's asking, you work in so many different artistic mediums, which is true. If you go again to 205, you'll see he paints, sculpture, Also, there's a little fur. Oh, dear Lord.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's left over from the 80s.
Thank you. I was really waiting
up
to
in the attic.
Okay, thank God. It's not something you went out and...
Recycling
Okay. So how do these mediums influence each other, and how do you choose a particular medium?
You know, I make one piece at a time. And I mean, one of the things about talking about teaching before, I think one of the beauties of teaching is that you see young artwork, young students, and you know, there's no history behind that work. They're not a brand yet. You don't know if this is, and I think that's exciting. And to me, I've changed over the years. I mean, my heroes are people like Frank Lloyd Wright or Miles Davis. You know, Miles Davis just never went backwards. He just kept going forward, and I'd like to do that as an artist. So I'm restless, and I fall in love with, you know, I see sculpture and I think, oh, I want to do that, or I want to be a minimalist, or my wife is a great painter. She has a painting around the corner at Brian Butler's. Put that plug in, but I think and I've looked at her paintings for so many years that I thought I want to make a painting. So it's really just I just want to steal from everything, and I just want to do it myself. So I don't know. It's just impatience, and it's just much more exciting than sort of fulfilling something that people expect. I'd like to keep challenging myself and hopefully challenging the audience.
Well, and at this point, I think what comes to mind is I think it's such a point of privilege, really, in a way, to be an artist, because I think so many people struggle with, what do I really want to do? What's really important to me? What really is my purpose, or what's my mission? And they're stuck on the L, and they go to the L, they go to work, they don't really like their job, they come back on the L, they go home, they sit in front of the TV and think, like, what am I really meant to do here? And you're all driven. You have no choice. It's been decided for you whether you like it or not, and that's liberating for you. Your path is laid out, and you have your whole life to be passionate about it. So it's a point of privilege, really.
It is.
Because most people suffer and struggle with that.
I suffer and struggle also.
Do you?
Don't you? Of
Yes,
course, everybody does.
When
Yes,
when I started at Sinfonietta as education director, they had to literally show me how to use the fax machine, because all I've
Believe you.
ever done is hit stuff, you know,
Yes,
and,
right.
and do music. Yeah, so I didn't have some other basic skills that I needed, but I'm learning.
You know how to use a fax machine now? Well, it's
Yeah, I
over.
can
No one
figure it out.
faxes.
Yeah,
It's
no,
done.
that's already passé.
Well, so we do have something to show of Tony's. So I interviewed Tony in front of the Eyeball a couple years ago, and I asked him a question that I write for the Huffington Post, and I recently had an article about this as well, because we've got a lot of public art going on in the city now. We've got Color Jam, and we've got the big art program. Oh, thanks. We've got the big art program going on right outside Navy Pier. There's a wonderful sculptor who's done this bouquet of canoes that I hope you all see. So we've got a lot of public art going on in the city. So the eye was under construction, and the day that I interviewed you, the iris of the eye, which was coming down, I think, Michigan Avenue, or was it State Street, fell off the truck. Do you remember that? The iris, I bet you do. So the iris is huge, right?
I don't like where this is going at all. Yeah, that's supposed to be a secret that we don't tell, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's too late now.
The iris did fall off, but it was okay.
No problem.
It ended up being okay. So it was
Little
sort of,
Visine.
yes, right. It was sort of a calamitous day, but it was also under construction. How many people worked on that eye to put it together?
I don't really. I mean, it was made out of 25 parts, and there were, steel workers and fiberglass people, and I don't know exactly how many, but, 20 people or so over a few months' time. So yeah, it was a big job.
And
big
how much
eyeball.
did it weigh? I mean, I remember all the cranes and.
I don't know what it weighs. It's pretty heavy. I don't know. I don't know the statistics. Actually, could make something up.
Make something up. No, you don't know the own statistics to your eye? I would think that people would have asked you that
But
a
if
lot.
I ran a marathon, I'd know the number I ran. I will say that.
Fair enough. Well, okay. So
But I
I'm
don't
gonna.
just make things up.
Someone signaled to me if we have figured out technical difficulties, and that is a no. All right. So I'm going to keep going. So, what goes through your mind when you're doing something like Hot Dog Man?
What goes through my mind? Getting it done, and
how long does something like that take?
I mean, look, it's I'm looking at Baroque art. I'm looking at R. Crumb, Chicago history. I mean, I riff on all of that stuff. you know, I sample, I riff, and so it's, I mean, what goes through your mind is trying to get the perfect vision that's in your head in 3D, in the real world. So I don't know.
And how many of those things do you try? I'll say this to everyone, and they don't work out. What's the ratio of things that you try and you just end up not going with? Because not everything you touch is going to work, of
Every
course.
day,
Right?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
no,
yes,
yeah,
right,
you got to
yeah.
keep. I'm not sure the ratio, but yeah, you just keep going. You keep plugging.
And how do you get through a rut? Because you all have those periods when you're not creating too.
Well, David Kelly once said that failure is enlightened success. So I think the more you fail, the faster you get to the great
Right.
result. So, but to answer your question, I mean, you just have to keep trying, and sometimes you can't even think about it. Sometimes in failure, you find something that brings you joy.
Right.
So I don't know. It's an interesting question, because I take risks with new pieces as well, and I love what you said about doing it for the public, right? And so I struggle, and I'm sure you understand this, with new composers creating works, and sometimes it doesn't resonate with the audience, and people wonder why audiences are diminishing, because they don't understand the music, or then the classical music people are like, oh, well, that music is too, contemporary. And,
right. Hard to please so many bifurcated audiences.
Yeah. So I don't know how that plays.
I mean, I live in terror of that kind of artist block, the equivalent of writer's block. But I haven't, and I think part of my practice or thinking is dealing with that. I mean, I love the kind of the beat, be here now, that kind of be in the moment. That's part of the practice. And just, and Warhol was really important to me, his kind of just, I think you think about Jackson Pollock or the abstract expressionism and just angst. Oh, if I do this, it's going to be, great. If I can't make a mistake. And Warhol was like, whatever. You want it in blue, no problem.
Yes,
and there's just something so, I mean, it's just, he just kept making and making and making. So, I mean, I think a lot about that, and it is sort of just, I don't know, the more you do it, the more you trust it, and you trust, and if you fail, you learn from it, just as you're saying. I mean, I heard Franz Klein quote recently about being an artist is you have to be willing to be embarrassed, to embrace that and just keep it going.
I don't know how many people were here this morning, but at 10:30 a.m., art critic Jerry Saltz was here talking, and he said something, although he was quoting somebody else, but he said something that I think is really true. The way through work is work.
Yeah,
so when it
absolutely.
falls or it fails or whatever, the only way through that is through that, and that's more work. I have been told by the powers that we are now ready to embarrass you, because that's our
great.
job here as an artist, so let's try to roll that tape. How do you feel about the bringing of public art, particularly at this time?
Well, I mean, this is a commission from the Chicago Loop Alliance, and I think their idea is that it brings tourism, it brings people to the Loop. I mean, there's a lot of misunderstanding about public art. For one thing, I mean, you can see this puts a lot of people to work.
But I also think on another level, in the tough times, when we get rid of all our stuff and we go to our family and our friends, we also value the things that make us feel us alive, things that make us connected to ourselves, and that's art. So I always think that in toughest times, that's when you want art around you the most.
I heard, I'd have to look this up, but I heard when the Berlin Wall went down, the biggest businesses that opened up were galleries, were art galleries. And
Expressing themselves.
people ask, like, why do we need art? And I think the question is more, I don't know we do need art necessarily, but we have always had it. It does not go away. It's a thumbprint of a human.
So the point of that little clip was, I think that's so fascinating when you said, when the Berlin Wall came down, the first businesses that popped up were art galleries.
That's right.
Because, like you say, art has always been there. So do we need it? I don't know, but it's not going away. It's always been there. So for the people who think like, I don't get it, or what does it bring to my life, or why is it so expensive, or for all the stuff that we hear from time to time, it's not going away. And that to me is very reassuring.
I think people usually do get it. They're just afraid they don't get it. If they can get over the, their fear, and you just ask them to relax and tell you what they think, they're always right. They're always,
because it's their gut.
But it's more just a, Yeah, a fear of it, that, you know, a fear of not, that there's something they don't. I think everything is so prescribed in culture right now, more than ever.
Yes.
And art's one of those few things that, you know, you're not supposed to get it, all of it.
Yes,
You know?
right.
What's wrong with that?
Right, it's out of the norm of what you're getting every day in terms of information being fed to you, and
Yeah,
so it's
I think so.
Yeah, maybe you don't get it, and maybe there's, you know, joy in that.
Could be.
Could be. Well, I know what gives me a lot of joy. It's food, and so I would like to see what Michael Cornick is giving us for our entree.
Welcome back. I'm Michael Cornick at MK Restaurant, and we're here with the dinner party for the entree. Today we're serving Lake Erie whitefish with Maine lobster, some Nichols Farm potatoes, and a little bit of salsa verde made from tarragon and mint. We're going to start over the stoves, 2 pans, and a little bit of butter. We're going to poach the lobster warm just over a very, very low heat in butter, and we're going to saute the whitefish in a pan and the potatoes in the pan. First, we're going to take a little bit of salt and pepper. And in just a medium warm pan, we're going to use a little bit of whole butter. When it gets brown like that, all the moisture is gone, it has a nice nutty aroma, and it'll help brown the fish at a low temperature. And that low temperature will allow us to cook the fish evenly all the way through. Set a little pressure on it to make sure the skin is flat and gets a little bit crisp. Just going to adjust the flame a little bit. On the next pan, we'll start with a little bit of butter again. And this will be for our potatoes. We're not going to get any color on the potatoes. These were blanched earlier in a little bit of water and salt, and we're just going to warm them up. You can see as the whitefish is bubbling away, it's getting nice and brown underneath. And we're going to go just about another minute before we turn it. In the last pan in the melted butter, we're going to just gently warm the lobster. And these have been cooked enough to get them safely out of the shell, take on a nice color. And then almost over the pilot light, we're going to try to warm them through without really changing the texture so they're nice and tender when we eat them. The fish, after just a couple minutes, is ready to turn. And we're going to gently turn it. You see that nice golden brown skin, even though it's going at a relatively low temperature and the butter is just bubbling. And for the sauce, I simply roughly chopped fresh tarragon and mint with a little bit of shallot, capers, anchovy, garlic, and some extra virgin olive oil. I added juice of about 1.5 lemons to this at the end, and this is our version of a very rustic salsa verde. The plate for this dish is going to start by putting a line of salsa verde, relatively loose, on the plate. We'll put a little bit more on top in just a moment. You see I've turned the flame off here. And if you want to check the whitefish, we would just turn it over and we would just kind of take a peek to make sure it's just going to cut with a fork and it's just done. And that needs just another minute or so. Potatoes are warm. This time of year when we get local potatoes from our farm, we tend not to serve them with a lot of other things on them. We just want the potatoes to kind of speak for themselves. Take our whitefish, lay it right on top. And then just warm. I'm going to gently place the lobster, so if someone could imagine it almost crawling onto the whitefish. At this point, we're going to put just a little more salsa verde and finish with just a few pieces of blanched buspieres, or sea beans as they're known. Lake Erie whitefish with poached Maine lobster, Nichols Farm potatoes, and salsa verde. Thank you for joining us at the dinner party. I hope you all had fun. I'm Michael Kornick, chef owner at MK Restaurant at 868 North Franklin in Chicago. We're open 7 nights a week, and we hope you'll join us for dinner soon. Visit us on the web at mkchicago.com, and have a great day.
So of course I'm welcoming back. Oh, bring your chair. Would you mind grabbing a chair and come sitting with us? So of course we're welcoming back Michael.
You have to hear somebody say that dead lobster should crawl onto the fish to know that
Here.
stupidity comes to cooking.
No, it's not
Something.
true. Okay.
But
So I've been holding back this question because I want you to answer it as much as everybody else. So where do these ideas come from? So we just had David Byrne in town, fabulous musician, and he was saying, he's got a new book out, and he was saying, you know, while there are new creative ideas, the format in which we deliver things are really the same, and that's just something we recycle all the time. And I wondered, for you, how do you come up with these ideas? Is it something you're just traveling and you've got an idea, or trial and error?
you know, I don't think that the main course was a lot of creativity or idea for me, because salsa verde and fish is a very common occurrence, and now you know, the idea of fish and potatoes and sea beans and things with lobster that all come from the Northeast, it doesn't feel new to me. Cod with lobster. I spent a lot of years vacationing in Martha's Vineyard, and so George's Bay cod and haddock and things like that with Maine lobster were just part of dinner out there. So I don't think that was a less creative approach than things that I think normally really go well together. But I would say creativity comes from experience, and it comes from giving yourself a chance to be open-minded to both new things, new learning, new combinations, but also to, at least for my cooking, to really recognize what has proven to be part of our past experience with food. And you won't find a lot of the really truly molecular gastronomists, I think, acknowledging historical cooking as much as you might find at MK or at my other restaurants. I'm deeply rooted in the history of French cooking, Italian regional cooking, and I think that I don't tend to go too far creatively away from things that have proven to work together for a long period of time. That being said, I like to create dishes that entice somebody to new thinking, but with flavors and textures that I think generally work together. So most of my cooking, I would say there's very whole food presence in it. And you'll recognize the ingredients from the way that they came from nature to the restaurant in a great respect for that. But, you know, for me, creativity, I travel a lot, I read a lot, I eat at a lot of other restaurants. I look at food a lot. I think food is really taken in by the eyes and by the aromas well before we taste it. And I want my food to look beautiful and to look like what it is. I mean, I think if you look at that plate, you see the things that make up that plate. Salsa verde's herbs, I choose not to blend it. I choose to cut it rough chop. It's a textural change, but it's also an identity change for me. And it's an easy dish to share with others because not everybody has high-speed food processors that can produce a small amount. And since most people at home cook for 2 or 4, nobody wants to make a blender full of salsa that they want to use for one night. So this is a recipe that you can make in as small a quantity as you want because you're basically just chopping herbs on the table and mixing it with a little bit of olive oil and capers and anchovy.
So
that's a terrible long answer.
He glossed over this, but this is the same for everyone here at the table. So you have restaurants, plural. You are very busy. You have Ada Street, you have MK, you are a partner in 9, correct? You have things in Las Vegas. So just like everyone here at the table who's, you know, got teaching jobs and performing, I mean, how do you stay focused?
How do I stay focused? I like anybody else, I work on one thing at a time, and I tend to have really great people. So MK, and I was going to mention, I mean, there's the whitefish lobster dish has been on the menu at MK for all 14 years we've been open in some iteration or another. It's gone from Thai green curry and Thai red curry to Asian broths made from miso to southwestern characteristics to the boat, always bringing this very delicate fish that we get from our Great Lakes, today more from Lake Erie than Lake Superior, with what I think is really the delicacy of the sea, which is you know, North American Maine lobster. But you know, I have really great people. My chef's been with me since we opened in 1998 at MK, and that's really where I consider the most important cooking and dining experience that we do. I have 2 burger bars called DMK Burger Bar and a little place called Fish Bar, which was really designed to kind of curb some of my memories of not getting to Martha's Vineyard that often, and having lived in New Orleans. So it's a cross between sort of a New Orleans oyster shack and a New England clam shack. And I have a 200-plus seat Italian restaurant and a steakhouse in Las Vegas that are time consuming, and I'm there monthly, that we do what I think is some of the best Italian food in Las Vegas, along with Nine Steakhouse. And I'm not that really involved in Nine Steakhouse here anymore, but I did open it in 2000.
Well, okay. Someone has tweeted me right away because they want that $100 gift certificate to MK. No dummy here. Dolly Rum wants to ask you, so in addition to all the things that he just mentioned, you're very involved in giving back to the Chicago community, as is everyone here. How have your efforts influenced your food? That's a great question. And you win a $100 gift certificate.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I never really thought about it that way. I think about it the other way. My wife was a social worker before she got suckered into working at the restaurant. And we've always been very active in our community. And so the byproduct of having a successful restaurant has been able to participate in the community at all different levels. In our burger bar group, we have a thing called 365 Days of Giving, and every day a percentage of our sales goes to a different cause. We fund 12 different organizations throughout the year that benefit hunger, wellness, children, and the planet Earth. At the Burger Bar, at the Fish Bar, it's the rivers, lakes, and streams of Illinois, the Shedd Aquarium, and sustainable seafood. At MK, it tends to be all of those and the arts. Tomorrow night, an event that I've chef chaired for 7 years, called Toke, an evening with Chicago's great chefs, will, after tomorrow night, have raised over $2 million for kids with cancer to send them to Camp One Step at a Time at Aurora University in Lake Geneva. And thank you. And then I like to be near artists a lot, both visual artists and performing artists. So
you're in your element here.
We do work with Steppenwolf and the MCA, and really I had the chance to meet Tony through getting an opportunity to work with Tony and 4 other Chicago artists to create a dinner for the MCA a couple of years ago, and it was really, that was the greatest artistic food challenge that I've ever had. And the goal there was to think about how Tony's work, along with Dan Peterman and Kay Rosen, Theaster Gates, and Laura Latinsky's work could influence and transform my cooking to dishes and presentations that would replicate their work. And so that was the most fun, but also the most challenging dinner in terms of creating an artistic link to the charity.
So again, we're talking about this cross-pollination of art forms, which I think is so fascinating. I want to be respectful of everyone's time who's given it so graciously tonight at the table, so I'm just gonna ask one more tweet from the audience from Ann Scarlett, who wins gift certificates to the Act One pub. Good for you. This is a great question. I'll let everyone answer before we skedaddle. You've all found your crafts. So do you have any advice for young people who seek to be creative but struggle to find the right outlet? Advice?
It's a job too. I mean, it's not, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I feel like I'm working at it every day. It's not, I think when you think like, oh, there's going to be this big break, and I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm insecure, but I think I keep working so hard because I'm always, I'm always afraid it's going to dry up or something. So I don't know.
Yes, right.
I mean, there's a lot more to it that's banal and mundane than you think. I don't think it's just magic, it's kind of work, and that there's something okay about that.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that's some Midwestern thing, I don't know, but
a dedication to the process.
Yeah, and that it's, I mean, we've all been working on this a long time, and we obviously love it. That's a given. But you know, it's one dish at a time, I would think, and that's the way I feel. It's one piece at a time. You know, you just keep it going. So that's not a very good answer.
No,
Well,
I think that's the truth, though.
But the young people need to be introduced to it all. So that's the key.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
that's why,
right.
regardless of what music and art is in the schools, we're still going to be there,
Right.
introducing what we do and seeing the faces. You know, so we got to at least give them that option, right? That
Absolutely.
they have to have the different
That chance.
the chances,
That-
and
that chance.
yeah, and see which way they may go.
Right. Yes. Josephine, words to live by?
Well, I've been very fortunate to have parents who are very supportive of my education and culture, but I agree with you, it was a lot of hard work on my end as well. But I think it's important to nurture young people to follow their dreams and their hearts. I just had an alum who came to our board meeting today, and he's a graduate of MIT and graduate school, business school from Harvard, and he's now creating this whole new movement, this social entrepreneurship. He's going to Singapore, and it's just fascinating to see these children rise once they follow their hearts. So,
Right.
yeah.
So follow your heart would be your advice. And sir, last words?
You know, mine would say, I think young people should try a lot of things. I think, you know, it's that interest of how if someone's good at one sport, they stop playing all other sports and pursue one thing. I was lucky. My sister was a photographer. I got to try that. We had an easel and paints and stuff in the basement because my other sister did that. Cooking seemed to be real natural in my house. My grandmother lived with us and cooked, and my mother cooked. But, you know, I encourage my kids to just try a bunch of different things. I have a sophomore and freshman in college and a junior and sophomore in high school. And I don't really care what they do as long as they do it with a lot of passion and chase their dreams more than their pension. So.
Yes, cheers to that. Chase your dreams and not your pension. I will drink to that. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank the main stage for bringing us here. I want to thank Expo Chicago. I want to thank Jeff Handley, and there are some wonderful things happening at Chicago Sinfonietta, so you can go to chicagosinfonietta.org. Or you can see Jeff, because he's going to be here. I want to thank Josephine Lee, and of course, great things are happening. You're going to New York, to Carnegie Hall, so great things are happening for the Chicago Children's Choir. Please keep your eye on them. Tony Tassett, he is in booth number 205. You should check him out, and as well as all of his work and what he does. So thank you for being here. KaviGupta.com. KaviGuptaGallery.com. KaviGuptaGallery.com. And of course, MK, Ada Street, the wonderful Michael Cornick, who is really a Chicago institution in and of yourself. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the main stage. Thank you to Expo Chicago. Thank you to all of you. October 29th is our next show, and we are back at home at the main stage, and gosh, we like it there. So please come and see us. We've got the Chicago Cultural Commissioner, Michelle Boone. We've got the executive producer of Check Please, David Manilow, and we've got the editor of the Daily Splash, Susanna Nagovin. So come see us on October 29th. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everyone watching at Time Out Chicago. I hope you liked your Bose chocolate. I can hear lots of people nibbling. So enjoy your chocolate. Stay. We're going to be here a while. Goodbye, everybody on Time Out. Thanks for watching.